Thank you for taking out time out of your day to do this interview. Would you please
Hi,
provide
Luke.
information about your background?
Hi, Luke. It's good to be here. Well, as you can see, I'm a Roman Catholic priest. I'm part of the clergy of the Catholic prelature of Opus Dei. So I'm a member of the philosophy department of the Pontifical University of the Holy Cross in Rome. That's run by Opus Dei, and my field is medieval philosophy. And currently, though I'm living in Chicago, I'm on leave. I'm working as a visiting professor in the philosophy department at the University of Chicago. So it's good to be back in Illinois. I grew up here in Illinois. I grew up about 100 miles south of here. I went to college at the University of Chicago. I studied philosophy. And then I did graduate work. I went to the University of Toronto and got my PhD in medieval philosophy. And it was after that that I went to Rome to study for the priesthood. So after that, I was in Rome until just a couple of years ago. I came back to Chicago.
All right.
Good.
So, in school, we have been discussing the COVID-19 virus in several of our classes. I would like to ask you a few questions regarding some ethical issues posed by COVID-19. Do you have a set of ethical principles that you use when faced with difficult questions or situations?
Well, yes, I do. As you can imagine, I'm Catholic. I became Catholic actually toward the end of my time as an undergraduate at the University of Chicago. And really, one of my reasons, I did that for several reasons, but one of my reasons was just that I was very impressed by the Catholic Church's own moral teaching. You know, it was a lot better than anything I could come up with. That's on my own, that's for sure. And better than any other institution that I was aware of. By that I mean, I thought it was more rational, kind of more consistent with my own conscience, you know, even though it helped me a lot with my conscience at the same time to correct some things. It's a very noble teaching, and I think also very practical, right? If you see the whole picture, it's very practical, it's possible. It's hard sometimes, but it's hard. So, you know, I'm talking about things like the Ten Commandments, right? And the Sermon on the Mount, all this stuff that people know about, I think. So that was my view then, and it's still my view now. Right? So I try to comply with that as best I can. I don't always succeed, you know, nobody does, I suppose, right? But those are kind of my principles, I suppose.
All right. Well, what was the greatest obstacle that you faced in applying these ethical principles?
Well, you know, I was thinking about that. I think the hardest thing usually in ethics, you know, there's hard cases where, you know, it seems like your principles kind of come into conflict with each other. That can happen sometimes. I think though that's not real common, and usually when it happens, you can get advice from somebody who's kind of got more experience, who's got wisdom in that area. But I think that the obstacles, you know, are just what kind of are we could call generally kind of temptations. You know, you have your principles, but then there are temptations that lead you to, like you just a strong emotion or a strong feeling that leads you to kind of want to do something that you know you shouldn't do, or social pressures, you know, your buddies or other people want you to do something. I think ethics is partly, you know, knowing what's right and what's wrong, and having the right principles. But a lot of it is having the kind of the qualities that you need in order to live by those principles. Right? And those are called the virtues, right? So like, you know, just like courage, you have courage to stick to your principles, you know, when maybe other people disagree or they kind of laugh at you, they think you're silly for acting that way. And that takes courage to stick to it. You know, maybe that for me, that's sometimes the hardest thing. I like to get along with people. You know, I like people to like me and to agree with me, right? But sometimes I know that, you know, my principles, they're not going to agree with that, or they're gonna think I'm silly for, you know, for doing something, or for expressing my opinion on a certain thing. And that's hard sometimes. That takes courage. So you have to build up these virtues. I think that's the big thing in ethics, really.
Now, would your ethical principles be applicable in dealing with some of the situations that we are dealing with COVID-19?
Yeah, I think so. I think the Christian teaching helps a lot here. First of all, um, mainly because it teaches us, it really insists on putting the common good first. Right? That's a very general moral principle, and it covers a lot. It's very general, but we have to put the common good before our own private interests. Right? Usually they coincide, but sometimes they don't. Sometimes you have to make sacrifices. Right? And it's obvious right now we got to make sacrifices. Everybody's got to make Right now, you and I are not wearing masks, but
That's
we're
right.
going to be we're
Yeah.
going to be pretty soon when we go out there. That's just a simple example, right? Um, of course, there's all sorts of regulations now. The authorities are laying down, and we may not always agree with all the regulations that are being given. I think another good principle here is we really should comply with the law unless it's obviously harmful or
Hmm.
obviously unjust. If it's obviously going to do somebody, serious harm right now for me to obey the law, then maybe I have to bend it, or something. But otherwise, we can't take the law into our own hands, even if we don't always agree. I think, that's part of just living in a civil community. And that's really important these days, right? Because people have all sorts of different opinions right now, right? About the pandemic, about what's to be done. You got people on the one side that are really anxious, really nervous. They want more restrictions. They want they want
Yeah.
you to do as much. And then there's other people who like don't believe it exists or they
Right.
don't take it seriously. And
Right.
you've got to navigate all that. That's another principle I think is important, is to respect other people's views, other people's dispositions, their
Hey,
feelings, you know what I mean? Because maybe I feel like, I'm not much at risk or it doesn't bother me too much, but this other person is really nervous. Really, I've got to respect that and maybe do things that I don't feel like I need to do. But I just can't say, well, look, I'm obeying the law, so I don't care what that person thinks. Okay?
mhm.
That's not a healthy attitude. That's
Yeah. Yeah.
so. I think the other thing I was thinking, maybe you're probably gonna tell me that I'm just saying this is because this is my job, and that's partly true, but it's not the whole thing. If you think about the pandemic, one thing it seems to me that the pandemic really makes us face, like the whole world makes us face, is the fact that we're not in control.
Hmm.
Right?
Yes.
We're not.
Absolutely.
We like to think we're in control. We've got all this technology now. We're cool. We've got everything. Right? And nature has thrown us another curveball. And nature will always be able to throw us a curveball. I think no
Yeah.
matter how sophisticated we are. The science is great. We've got to be using the science, and it's wonderful that we can do as much as we can. But um, I think really that this present situation, I think this is a moral consideration, should urge us to put God more in the picture. Right? We're not in control. We're not God. We play God sometimes.
That's
He's
right.
in control. He's in control. So I think this is a very practical thing. I think we should pray more. I think
Right.
that's a moral thing to do right now. Now you're going to tell me that's my job as a priest to say that, right? And it's true. It is. That's my job, right? But I think it's really practical. I think that prayer, when it's really serious prayer, it's really effective. God does listen to our prayers, and it helps us. It's not a substitute for doing what we can do. It helps us to act better. It helps us to be more courageous because it gives us hope, right? It gives us hope. We realize, God's on our side. He's helping us. And then, so we can act better. We can act with more confidence, like a team that really is confident of victory. They play better, right? They
Right.
play. That's what we've got to do. So I'm not going to preach anymore, but I think that's important.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's right. Thank you for that great advice. Now,
Okay.
speaking of advice, do you have an advice that I could use for these? How? What? I'm sorry. Do you have any advice that you could provide for me as I think about ethical issues that I may face?
Well, I think you're going to be facing a lot of issues. You're already facing issues, right? We face the little ones every day, I think, probably. But um, I was thinking about that. I think my advice would be to have somebody there that you can get advice from on a regular basis,
Mhm.
right? And not just have that humility to realize that you can't solve everything on your own. I think if we have that, that helps a lot. and I'm not just talking about obviously technical advice, like you go to the doctor and he tells you what pills to take or what regimes to follow, or you go to the lawyer, you go whatever, the banker, he tells you what to do with your money, okay? But for the hard choices in your life, for how to develop the virtues, as I was talking about before, you know, and don't wait for a hard situation, find somebody who's got some wisdom, who's got experience, um, who knows you, somebody who can and you can kind of talk to him and open up and tell him about your life. You can touch base with that person from time to time, somebody you can trust,
Mhm.
and then they can call you out maybe a little bit. They can call you out when you're acting, they think, hey, that's kind of dumb what you're doing, or maybe you
Right.
should think about this, right? That can really help a lot. If we try to go through life on our own, making all our own decisions and not usually we go down a blind alley, sooner or later. It's just great to have somebody you can open up with, I think. Somebody like that. It's got to be somebody you can trust, somebody who knows,
Like your
Uh,
parents or maybe even a
yeah,
therapist and all.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Your parents, that can be great if you can have, just a good conversation with them because they're on your side. They love you,
Mhm.
right? And they've got more experience than you do. And sometimes they're going to tell you things you don't like to hear, but look, we gotta face that. That's all.
Right.
That's life.
Right. Well, thank you for your time, Father Brack. This has been very helpful. Thank you so much for all the advice you've given me,
Okay,
and
Luke.
I look forward to seeing you again, maybe.
Okay, great. It's been great to talk to you, Luke. Okay, all the best. Okay, you
Thank you
take
so
care.
much.